Hi, my name is Shuai Wang, and today I'm presenting the ADCS paper, MeSH Term Suggestion for Systematic Review Literature Search. This is a joint work with Hang Li, Harrisen Scells, Daniel Locke, and Guido Zuccon. A systematic review is a comprehensive review of the literature for highly focused research questions, and are very common in medical research. These reviews are evidence-based reviews, and evidence gathering is the key aspect in the review process because enough evidence needs to be gathered to reliably support or refute the hypothesis. When it comes to evidence gathering, search placed from information sources databases is the most relied upon strategy. In the medical domain, the information sources databases include major scientific publication repositories such as PubMed and Cochrane. To conduct a systematic review search, Boolean queries are typically used by information experts to gather information. The use of a Boolean query is motivated by the ease of reproducibility and explainability associated with Boolean retrieval. Here we can see an example of the typical systematic review query, and as you can see, this query is quite complex. And in fact, these queries are difficult to construct, and normally it takes weeks or months for information specialists to create this query. And this query creation process is actually an iterative process as well. Here is the example. We can also say there are many query entities like MeSH terms, title abstract, or text word, right? We all know what is the abstract title or text word is, but what is a MeSH? If we take a closer look at the query, we can see there are actually many meshes in the query. MeSH stands for medical subject headings. It is a controlled vocabulary of medical terminologies used for indexing articles for PubMed. However, there are approximately 27,000 entries in this MeSH vocabulary, and even now, this vocabulary is updated annually to reflect changes in medicine and medical terminology. So you can think that it is actually hard for information specialists to think of some specific MeSH terms of their needs and put them straight away in the query they want to construct. So in this paper, our goal is to build methods to automatically suggest these MeSH terms so that the time spent on searching of MeSH terms can be minimized. For doing this, we need to build systematic review queries without MeSH terms, like the query here in the left side. Then, by suggesting those MeSH terms, we want to build queries with MeSH terms that can serve to use for information specialists. The current methods to help information specialists to come up with MeSH terms in Boolean queries faster is called automated term mapping, which is the defaultly used in PubMed to map free text to MeSH terms, journal names, or author names. However, ADM method does have some limitations. First, acronyms like short names of long terms such as HIV, AID, or COVID can have an inaccurate translation using ADM. Secondly, when synonymic free text terms are used, this will normally cause confusion and result in different mapping. Such as here, liver neoplasms and hepatic cancer has same meaning but will map to different terms. Thirdly, because ADM will map free text to MeSH terms, journal names, or author names, it is sometimes difficult to distinguish between MeSH terms and journal names. For example, blood here is actually the journal name, but is mapped as a MeSH term. In this presentation, we'll firstly state how do we suggest MeSH terms, which include MeSH term retrieval, MeSH term ranking, and MeSH term refinement. Next, we're going to talk about our experiment part, which includes two experiments. The first experiment is to find the effectiveness of MeSH term suggestion, and another experiment is talking about effectiveness of searching using MeSH term queries suggested. In the end, we'll do a summary of our key findings and some future opportunities we can explore in this field. Let's first talk about how do we do the suggestion of MeSH terms. For suggesting MeSH terms, we would firstly have a query that's without MeSH terms. Then through different suggestion methods, we would like to get a query that's with MeSH terms. This suggestion would consist of 3 steps. MeSH term retrieval, ranking, and refinement. So next, we're going to talk about these 3 steps one by one. For MeSH term retrieval, we're using 3 methods to complete this task. Apart from the PubMed-used automated term mapping, we're using another 2 methods, MetaMap and UMLS. MetaMap is a name entity recognition system to match free text to concepts in the UMLS that includes MeSH. UMLS, here we use index from UMLS 2019 AB and then used Quick UMLS to conduct the suggestion. Quick UMLS is a fast, unsupervised approach for medical concept extraction. These are 2 other methods that we use in order to map free text out of the, to map to MeSH terms out of the free text. We hope that using different methods, we can obtain different results from ATM and find the best methods to use in the 3. After MeSH term retrieval, we aim to get a list of MeSH terms that's being suggested. For MeSH term ranking here, we use entity learning to rank method introduced by Locke in 2018 to train from any training dataset. We build the training based on the 11 features in the table, and these 11 features are the features to get the MeSH term relationships to free text. You can have a look at the paper for further details. By using the entity learning to rank, we aim to get scores of MeSH terms suggested in the test set. So the higher scores corresponds to a more suitable term, then we can rank them based on the scores to get a ranked list. Remember, as we have the 3 retrieval methods, ATM, MetaMap, and UMLS, we'll get 3 ranked lists in MeSH term ranking part. Apart from the 3 methods ranking scores list we get from the MeSH term ranking, we also introduced a rank fusion step trying to mix the effect of 3 MeSH term suggestion resources so that we hope the effectiveness can increase. Here is a walkthrough of how we're doing the rank fusion. First, we use min-max normalization to normalize the scores of each of the method. Then we combine the 3 lists by using a COMSUM method to end scores of suggestion terms and rank the newly created list by their scores. Last is the MeSH term refinement. When we have the ranked list of MeSH terms, we now want to see the threshold of the terms that should be ended back to the relational query. We can certainly end all MeSH terms in the relational query to form the new query, but because our list is ranked, we can also choose to only end the highest ranking terms. Note that here we are simulating the MeSH term suggestion and MeSH term selection process when information specialists construct this query. There is chances that they will only end the best terms to use, right? So here we are refining using the percentage of cumulative gain to cut off the number of MeSH terms to be appended to the list. The basic idea is using cumulative gain is that we want to contain at least 1 MeSH terms to be attended. And we want to also get use of the normalized score distribution. So example in the slideshow set, firstly, we know we have a ranked list of suggestion terms. We want to normalize them to get a normalized list. Then we use 1 minus normalized score so that the top ranked terms will have the score of 0 and last one will have a score of 1. In this way, we can calculate the cumulative gain at each rank level by ending all the scores on the top of the current rank level. For example, CG at rank 2, here will be 0 plus 1 equals to 1. And note here, tie can appear in the list. So here we have rank 2, A normalized score is 0.5, and rank 3, D normalized score is 0.5 as well, right? So what we do is that when tie appears, we will end the overall tie cumulative gains to the first appearance. So that here the CG scores at rank 2 will be 0 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1, instead of 0 plus 0.5 is 0.5, right? Then we will calculate the percentage of cumulative gain against the overall cumulative gain to get the current percentage of the rank, and this is set as kappa value. Here, kappa at 1 is 0, 2 is 34.5, etc. And now we know how we calculated this kappa value. We use the training set to tune the kappa parameter of the set so that the F1 scores of the corresponding set will be maximized. So here in the example of result on ATM methods, well, don't worry, I will talk about the data set later on. The graph is also used in our original experiment to find the maximum cutoff value of the method. In this data set, we can see that here the cutoff of the training set will be 20%, right? This means the maximized refinement cutoff will be set as 20%. Any rank cutoff value larger than the 20% will be ignored. And in this example here, on the left side, well, if this is the one example using in our test set, we'll only consider rank 1, which is B, in our refined list. So after we know how we suggest these MeSH terms, we're going into details in our experiments. Remember, there are 2 experiments in the paper. The first experiment is to test the effectiveness of MeSH term suggestion, and the second experiment is to test the effectiveness of searching using MeSH term queries suggested. This goes into the data set we're using. So in this paper, we have used Cliff-Tar data set for both experiments. And what is Cliff-Tar data set? TAR here means technological assisted review. And Cliff-Tar dataset in particular is a dataset that consists of multiple individual systematic reviews with their all available evidence information. So it includes all the information we need for the experiments, including systematic review query, retrieved documents, and relevant assessments. Furthermore, the Cliff-Tar dataset, we have the pre-split training and testing portions so that we can directly use them in our experiments. Cliff-Tar dataset are published each year as the benchmark computation to help for more effective and efficient systematic reviews building. In our experiments, we will use the Cliff-Tar datasets from year 2017, 2018, and 2019. The plot showed here is a distribution of each year's dataset in division of training and testing. Now, we're going to show our first experiment, which is to test the effectiveness of MeSH term suggestion. From the dataset, we now only have original queries that's been constructed by health experts. So how do we design our experiment so we can test the effectiveness of our MeSH term suggestion method? Here's the pipeline of our MeSH term suggestion task. First, we know in the dataset we only have the original queries and there are MeSH terms originally in the queries. So we actually want to remove these MeSH terms so that we can build our queries without MeSH terms, right? Remember, our goal is to suggest these MeSH terms using our method. So what should we do in these queries is that we actually find that these Boolean queries are normally combined by different clauses using AND operator with same clause corresponding to the same topic. So we can do first is that instead of using the whole query alone, we can separate them by their clauses. We here call this clause as fragment. And our first step is called fragmentation. And we can see in the current chart that these fragments are combined with AND. And there are free text and MeSH terms inside each fragment. After fragmentation, we now have 3 fragments with MeSH term appear in each one of them. So now we can remove these MeSH terms. We can see here that the white little square box means that these MeSH terms are removed. And the example shown on the right side here shows that no MeSH terms in the fragments anymore. So after we have the MeSH term removed query, we can definitely use the suggestion method to suggest MeSH terms for the fragments. Remember, what we do is 3 steps: MeSH term retrieval, MeSH term ranking, and MeSH term refinement. So now we have the MeSH term suggested. How do we evaluate these methods? To evaluate the effectiveness of suggesting MeSH terms, we treat the MeSH terms in the original query as ground truths, which means if the suggestion method can correctly choose the same MeSH terms as the original query constructed by information specialist, that means the MeSH term is correct, otherwise it's not. For measurement, we're using retrieved-based measurements, including precision and recall, to estimate the effectiveness of MeSH term suggestion system. And because of the suggestions list are ranked and refined using learning to rank, we also use ranked-based scores, including recall at 5, recall at 10, NDCG at 5, NDCG10, and recipient rank to evaluate the ranking effectiveness. Next, let's talk about some key findings of our first experiment, which is to evaluate the effectiveness of MeSH term suggestion. Firstly, from the retrieval aspect of the MeSH term suggestion, we found that for single retrieval method, well, for single here, I meant ATM, MetaMap, and UMLS. UMLS can always achieve the highest recall and lowest precision. Oh, sorry. But why ATM performs so poorly? Compared with MetaMap and UMLS, wasn't it the current method information specialists use? Our assumption is that even though ATM is currently used as a solution for MeSH term suggestion, it really would fall into the interest of individual information specialists, which means some information specialists can directly come up with MeSH terms that's performing much better than the current suggestions. This is why recall of ATM is the worst compared with all other methods. For fusion method, it can achieve highest recall and lowest precision. And this finding is actually as predicted. As we talked before, appending all MeSH terms from the 3 resource list to the MeSH term suggestion list will certainly increase the number of correctly chosen terms in the list, right? But the size of the list will be even larger. Therefore, it will certainly increase recall, but it will decrease the precision. For ranked-based measures, we found that UMLS also outperforms other 2 single retrieval methods. And fusion method can achieve even higher effectiveness in its ranking. These findings are shown in all ranked-based measures, including receipt rank, recall F5, recall N10, NDCG5, and NDCG10. And for refinement methods, we found that general trend of refinement will always have an increase of precision and decrease of recall, compared with unrefined methods when comparing with same suggestion method. In conclusion, for MeSH term suggestion effectiveness, we found that first, MetaMap and UMLS can be competitive to currently used methods and outperform its effectiveness. Secondly, fusion methods has shown to achieve the highest effectiveness in all ranked-based measures. Next, we are going to test the effectiveness of searching using the MeSH term suggested query. First, why we care about searching. Remember, in the previous MeSH term suggestion experiment, we compared the suggested MeSH terms with MeSH terms from the original query made by health experts. So the ground truth is actually made from the MeSH terms from the original query, right? Here is the example. We say MeSH term B is suggested. MeSH term is the suggested MeSH terms appear in the original query. So we treat it as positive, and A and D does not appear in the original query. So we treat them as negative. But is this fair? This might not be the fairest way to evaluate this task. Why? First, because we are not 100% sure that A and D is worse compared with B. This relevant label is actually very weak and only based on the assumption that information specialists can always choose all the best MeSH terms. Secondly, the choice from information specialists can also be biased. Some terms in suggested list may have same effect with original use terms, but just haven't been chosen by information specialists who constructed the original query. Therefore, we have also made another experiment that can further investigate the effectiveness of these MeSH terms using the actual searched results. Here is a diagram of how it works. So after we use the suggestion method, we have the suggested MeSH term list. We then combine the MeSH term suggested with the MeSH term removed query to form this new query. Then we search this new query in PubMed, and by doing this, we can definitely get a list of searched candidate documents. Remember, in the CLIF dataset, we had the relevant assessments for candidate documents, and we know which document is relevant and which is not. So these PubMed search documents can be evaluated using the original candidate documents relevant assessments that's appeared in our dataset. But is that right? No, it does have some problems. So what is the problem? the original relevant assessment were built based on searched candidate documents from original query, right? So when we change the query, there are many documents that's actually unjudged. And we don't know if these documents are relevant or not. In this diagram, we can see that the red documents are relevant, blue documents are irrelevant, and yellow documents are unjudged. So how do we treat these unjudged documents is the problem in our effectiveness information. In our experiment, our solution is that we use 3 evaluation approaches to treat unjudged documents differently. First, we can of course treat the unjudged documents as irrelevant, so that this is actually a lower bound of the measurement. Or alternatively, we can treat unjudged documents as relevant, which is a upper bound measure. And another method we can use is to use MLE to estimate the relevance of documents. This is a estimated measure. So now we understand what is a lower bound measure and upper bound measure is, but what is an MLE? MLE means maximum likelihood estimation, and it means that we use the percentage of relevant documents in the original query results to estimate the percentage of relevant documents in the unjudged documents. Example shown here shows that the original relevant judgments, 3 of 5 documents are relevant, right? And the percentage so is 60%. Then if we have 5 unjudged documents, we will randomly select 3 of them as relevant and 2 of them as irrelevant. We know this is certainly not a great estimation, as we just randomly estimate the relevancy from unjudged documents, but currently that's what we do in the experiments. Next, let's talk about some key findings of our second experiment, which is to evaluate the effectiveness of searching using the MeSH term suggested query. Firstly, we want to find that the impact of MeSH terms. Therefore, we compared the effectiveness of MeSH term removed query with the original query. We found that when the MeSH terms were removed, precision will always go up and recall goes down for all dataset and evaluation method, no matter lower bound, MLE, or upper bound measure. Here is a plot we are using lower bound as example. Secondly, we want to find the impact of unjudged documents. This finding actually requires too much data to view, and it's going to be very complex if I show you the actual data here. If you see the original paper, there's a very big 2-column table here, and that's where the findings are from. And so I just conclude the points here. So the first finding is that for lower bound evaluation, we do find some methods that's performing better than original query on precision. Even though most of them are worse, none of them are statistically significantly worse. Second finding is that the unrefined fusion method can achieve highest recall in all MLE method and upper bound measurements. This is actually as expected, as we know by ending all terms in the query, the candidate list will increase in size and obtain more studies. Thirdly, for refined fusion method, even though it still achieves better recall value than all other refined methods, the performance by using the F1 to measure is generally worse than other refined methods. Next, we investigate the impact of fusion in our experiments. Firstly, we show the results of our unrefined suggestion methods. We found that unrefined fusion can always achieve the highest recall over all evaluation measures. However, the precision for unrefined method also appears to be lowest among all unrefined methods. This finding is actually not surprising for us, as unrefined fusion method will end all the MeSH terms from all 3 methods in the query by all operator. And this operation will always result in an increase of size in retrieved candidate documents if we use Boolean query. Therefore, a higher recall and lower precision is always achieved. So what if we don't end all MeSH terms in the list? This is here shown in our result of refined methods. we found that refinements generally decrease recall and increase precision. Then we use F1 measure to actually compare to see if we treat precision and recall as equal importance. Would our refined fusion method achieve better results than the original query results that's being used in the dataset? From the experiments, we found that actually no. Even though with the best performance of refined fusion method in 2017, F1 measure of our refined fusion still cannot beat the original method. For other datasets, the refined fusion method performs even worse. This means that the choice of MeSH terms are very important, and our current ranking and refinement systems still cannot make the system very effective and substitute professionals for MeSH term suggestion. But the findings were not stating that our suggestion method should not be used, even if it cannot outperform the original method. Noting that in medical domains, professionals will need to be fully trained to have the best knowledge about the domain. An automated process can dramatically increase the query formulation efficiency and make the process less knowledge required. Furthermore, some other researchers also stated that C studies as the starting document set for information specialists to construct Boolean query have been used for validation of the query performance. We hope we can also combine our MeSH term suggestion task with C studies validation set so that the efficiency of different MeSH terms queries can be easily visualized via graphs, and possibly it can be improved automatically. Furthermore, the methods can also be built as a semi-automatic process with a MeSH term score given to information specialists to help them to decide the best possible MeSH term used in the process. By building an ideal ranking, the information specialist can get a perfect knowledge of which terms should be chosen in the list by the suggested scores so that it can improve efficiency when conducting query formulation. For future research, there are several possible pathways we would like to explore in the task and conduct more research in order to help information specialists to build queries more efficiently. First, we would like to investigate the user interaction inside MeSH term suggestion process so that this method can be better integrated within current pipeline. We also would like to build tools for information specialists to construct query by using our MeSH term suggestion method, with the hope of increasing efficiency for systematic review query builder. Secondly, we would also like to find ways to combine with other automatic query formulation methods, such as C-driven query builder, which means to build systematic review Boolean queries automatically from C studies, or Search Refiner, proposed by Scells and Zuccon in 2018, to build a whole query construction pipeline for information specialists. Lastly, we can certainly improve the current used evaluation measures. For example, we use the original query MeSH terms as ground truths, but these ones are not necessarily the best choices. Also, the way we treat the unjudged documents should certainly be improved. In summary, we have formulated a MeSH term suggestion task to potentially improve the current MeSH term suggestion method and give an evaluation baseline for various methods. Based on this, we hope more research on MeSH term suggestion can be done in the future to help information specialists to construct Boolean queries more efficient. For more information, please read our original paper and visit our website. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask now.